ask all of our experts to share a 3 feet from gold story. And this is the core part of Little Conversations today, is a story of seemingly insurmountable obstacles that you faced, that through perseverance, through really believing in yourself, you came through. I'm sure you've read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and we actually, this part of our series goes right after R.U. Darby and his uncle when they went out gold prospecting. And they stopped because they got so frustrated because the gold seemed to disappear, and they stopped 3 feet from the richest gold vein at that time. So can you share a personal story where you found yourself 3 feet from gold?
Kind of my whole life, well, first of all, like the last story I just shared, the one about the, losing the rights to the title of my book, and using that as a springboard for a series that has been very successful and that may continue to grow, is a perfect example. I started my business. I talk about being an accidental CEO. I came from the classroom. I was teaching in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I moved to New Mexico. And the first job I got here was working with first-year teachers in a beginning teacher training program. And the first year I worked with them, I kept looking for materials to help them because, we would meet a couple times a week, and I would be in their classrooms and I would see these needs that they had. And I had just come out of the inner city, and I really could relate to the struggles they were going through. And as a beginning teacher, and at that time, I had just turned 30. And, so I was sort of new at this myself in a lot of ways. And I realized that there was a need for a book that didn't exist, or that I hadn't found, or that didn't have the right feel for what I was looking for. So I started cranking out these chapters and didn't realize they were chapters. I thought, at first they were like handouts. So we would have like a meeting, a class meeting, and I would do something on like environmental literacy, and I would type it up. And I would do one on homework, type it up, hand something out. Do something on meeting with parents and building successful relationships with parents, type that up. Well, by the end of that year, as I'm writing and writing and writing, I ended up with a 400-page book that became the Beginning Teacher's Resource Handbook, beginning of my business. Now, I needed to get these printed. So the second year that I was working with these guys, I had a book for them. And I went to the student union, because that was where we got stuff copied. And I said, how much would it cost to make 13 copies? Because I had 12 beginning teachers and myself. And they said, well, why don't you just go with 25, because that would be about the same price. And I said, fine. They said, that'll cost $300. I said, okay, fine. Now, believe it or not, I didn't have $300 in my bank account at the time. When I first moved to Albuquerque, I'm going to step back for a second because I want to tell you, I was offered this job. The job required a PhD, which I had just finished. It required classroom teaching experience in an inner city environment, which I had. And it also required a counseling background, which I also had because I had been a volunteer counselor at a clinic in Pittsburgh for several years before I moved out here. Yeah. I doubt that there was another person in the state of New Mexico when I applied for that job who had all of those qualifications. Now, this was back in 1980. The job paid $12,000 a year with no benefits.
Okay.
That was less than I was actually making as a classroom teacher before I got my degree, before anything else. When I got the job, I thought, I don't know if we can live on this. My husband ended up going into construction to, kind of so we could eat. And I wanted to start this business and had absolutely no money. So two things that I did. One thing, I went in to pay for this, and I wrote a check, and I told them, I wrote the check for $300, and I said, you have to hold this until Monday, because right now, if you deposit it, it's going to bank. I mean, it's going to bounce.
Yep.
Bank. I don't have that money in the bank. And the guy said, yeah, okay, no problem. We can hold it until Monday, as long as you promise you'll cover it by then. And it's just like, I don't write bad checks. That's why I wouldn't be telling you if I had the intention of ripping you off. Yeah. So I went in, I had 12 students. I said, you guys have to kick in $25 to cover the cost of printing this book. Each one did. I deposited the $300, covered the check, started my business.